Yo, what's up, everyone? This is Terry, bringing you another show here with College Football Stop. So sometimes when you do things like this, the shows kind of write themselves. Um, Today, or yesterday, sorry, Ryan Day and Jim Knowles had a press conference. So we're going to be digging into a lot of things that they had to say and kind of what we think that means. And then at the end of the show, I want to get to Ohio State's secondary, kind of the guys that I expect to see back there, and what I expect from those players in the secondary overall. So let's get into it. The first thing I wanted to talk about was Ryan Day's press conference. So a lot of stuff came about. The biggest thing that I'm assuming you probably already know is that Ryan Day named Kyle McCord as the starting quarterback for the Indiana game. Now, Ryan Day did say that Devin Brown is also going to play. Multiple times throughout the show, throughout the press conference, Ryan Day mentioned um, like the separation not being that much. He even said, about 10 days ago, Devin had taken the lead. Kyle has been consistent the last week, things like that. Um, I mean, the way that Day has worded it to me, it means that the quarterback competition is still on. Um, unless Kyle just comes out and completely lights it up, I think that we see Devin Brown maybe even as early as the first quarter in the Indiana game. So we'll see how that works out. But I definitely don't think the competition is over. Day was asked questions about like the separation between the two, and his answer basically was there's not much separation, but it was enough to be the starter. Which to me that just sounds like he's trying to respect both guys and let them know that the competition is still going on. He did mention too that like he talked to them together, and Devin Brown said that he was okay with the decision, which to we've everything we've heard about Devin Brown, he's like a super competitor. That just makes me think that Ryan Day told them this is who we're gonna go with first, but the competition is still going on. Devin Brown said, "Yeah, I'm cool with that. Let's go." So we'll see how this plays out. I think it's interesting that we're going to get to see both guys. Um, hopefully it doesn't put us in a situation where we have a close game with Indiana or anything like that. But I don't see that being the case. I think that both guys have been splitting reps. The receivers are comfortable with both guys, and I really expect the defense to be really good this year, which we'll talk about that here in a little bit when we get to Jim Knowles' press conference. So that was really it about the quarterback. I mean, he talked about it a lot, but there wasn't a ton in there except for those things. The next thing that Ryan Day mentioned that I thought was super interesting, someone asked him which freshmen are going to be playing. Can we, basically the question was worded something like, which freshmen can you guarantee we're going to see, or which freshmen can we expect to see? He mentioned three names, really four, but the other one was kind of brought up to him. I'll mention that too. So the three names that Ryan Day mentioned was Carnell Tate, Arvell Reese, and Malik Hartford. Now, he did kind of go into each one. He just explained how great Carnell Tate's been doing as a wide receiver, which we've heard that from Marvin Harrison Jr., who said he said that Carnell Tate was at a point where Marvin Harrison Jr. was going into last year, which is crazy because Carnell Tate's a true freshman. When Ryan Day mentioned Arvell Reese, he said he'll be playing on special teams, which if you've seen Arvell Reese, the kid looks like a freak athlete. Great. Put him out there on special teams. Let him run around and hit somebody. So I love that for him. And then the last one was Malik Hartford. So throughout fall camp, we've been hearing nothing but good stuff about Malik Hartford. And he's in the competition for the free safety position, which we'll get to more later in the show. But we've heard nothing but good things about him. That kid's a true freshman from Ohio. He went to Lakota West High School. I mean, hopefully we can see him get playing time because I mean he's the kid seems rangy, he's got ball skills, and he's not afraid to hit. We've seen that from a lot of his high school tape. So that was really it for the freshman. Oh no, the last one. Ryan Day mentioned Luke Montgomery. It was brought up to him like, what about Luke Montgomery? He's been talking about Luke Montgomery all off season, all fall. So I mean, I don't think there was a surprise there that Luke Montgomery was mentioned. I don't think he's going to start, but if something happens, somebody gets hurt, he may be the first guy that comes in. We'll see. And then another thing I thought was interesting. So there was a reporter there, which I'm surprised that this happened, but there was a reporter there that referenced the defense, and he used the line like it broke your back, and you could have won a national championship. Which typically you don't see the reporters asking questions like that or wording questions like that. But Ryan Day's response, he didn't look appalled by it or anything. He just kind of had a straight face, and said that's well documented. And we've addressed that, we've handled it, and they were talking about like giving up big plays and things like that. So I mean, I think that Ryan Day did take a lot of time this offseason to step back from strictly just the offense, and focus on other areas of the team. And I think that the team is going to benefit from that in the long run. And then another thing that was brought up during Ryan Day's press conference was I don't even know where this came from or how they knew this, but I guess they decided who's going to be in the booth during the games and who's going to be on the field. I thought it was interesting that um, the offensive coordinator, Brian Hartline, is not going to be in the booth. He's going to be on the field. It kind of makes sense because you need, with your wide receiver coach, you're rotating guys, you're checking in on your guys, stuff like that. You have a big room to manage. So it makes sense for Brian Hartline to be on the sideline. And then they mentioned Keenan Bailey and Corey Dennis. So the tight ends coach and the quarterback coach being in the booth. Now, I don't know where Corey Dennis was last year, but I know that Keenan Bailey being in the booth, it might be a good thing for Ohio State. I know that from everything we've heard about him is he's an overachiever. Everything that he's asked to do, he does it, and he does it better than you ask him to do it. So I'm hoping that Keenan Bailey is elevating the tight end room, and also, maybe he'll be able to elevate Ryan Day's offensive mind by being up in the booth and feeding information to him. And the last thing, as far as Ryan Day's press conference goes, he was asked about the running backs. Now, I don't think it's a surprise to anyone that people view Travion Henderson as the running back one. He's the one that you can't keep off the field. He needs to be out there first, and hopefully he's healthy because he's in for a big year. He did mention other guys like Mayan Williams and Chip Trainum, and even Dallin Hayden some. He said he definitely expects those guys to play, and then we'll see if we can get Evan Pryor out there. I know Evan Pryor's coming off of a pretty bad injury, so I don't know if he's behind. We're not really sure about that. We don't have too much information. But Travion Henderson, big year, and I mean, honestly, I don't think you can go wrong with any of those guys coming in after him. We've seen them all do good things, and I have no worry at all about the running back room. So that was it for Ryan Day's press conference. It was kind of a lot. He got into a lot of things. Check it out yourself, and you can hear like tone of voices and things like that. But I like what I'm hearing from Ryan Day overall. The quarterback battle. It sucks that it went into camp, but I think we have that it went into the season. Sorry, but I think we have two really good quarterbacks, and I mean, everything that I've heard about Devin Brown is that he is just that guy. He's elevated. He's someone who can take this team to the promised land. Again, we don't know about Kyle McCord. We've only seen a little bit from him. We haven't seen anything from Devin Brown. We're going to watch it play out on the field, and the best man's going to win the job and take this team to the national championship. All right, so let's transition over. Let's get into Jim Knowles' press conference. So I always like when Jim Knowles talks. I mean, the guy usually has good things to say. I didn't like last year when he was talking about giving up big plays was okay, but for the most part, he usually has good things to say. And last year, he told us that Tommy Eichenberg was the one that was understanding the defense the best, the one that he was the most excited about. I mean, I think we have to believe him now because Tommy Eichenberg was a dog. He's probably the best player on the defense last year. All right, so one of the first things that Knowles was asked about was the free safety position, because throughout fall there's been multiple guys there no one's ever been like named a starter. So Knowles mentioned that the battle is still going on with Jahad Carter, Josh Proctor, and Malik Hartford. So I mentioned Malik Hartford before. He's a freshman. Him to be in that battle is awesome, and I mean, there's a possibility that he wins it. Jahad Carter is the transfer that came in from Syracuse. He has a lot of playing time. I think the best game that he had last year at Syracuse was against Clemson. I think he had multiple interceptions. I know he had at least one. I know I've seen it. Excuse me. And then Josh Proctor. Josh Proctor is going into his 6th year here. He came in as a highly recruited guy. I don't know what the issue is with him. I don't know why he hasn't played. I know we've seen him try to go for big hits and things like that, and miss a couple tackles. But again, I don't really know. I don't have the information there, so we'll see if Josh Proctor ends up being on the field this year. But I'm excited for guys like Malik Hartford, Jahad Carter, to kind of see what they got. And then uh, next thing, this was just a quick hitter. Knowles was asked about Kenyatta Jackson. The hype around him has been huge this fall camp. Uh, Kenyatta Jackson, the one thing Jim Knowles said about him was that he jumps off the video. I mean, you he's a freak athlete, so you expect that, but I want to see that on the field against other teams, and I really think that he could produce this year. Knowles was also asked about Tommy Eichenberg. He said he thinks Tommy Eichenberg is the best in the country. I mean, Tommy Eichenberg's really good, man. So he did mention that Tommy's been really working trying to get better in the pass game, which is something that obviously he needed improvement on. I still think he was decent in the pass game last year, but obviously there's always something to improve on. So that's kind of where we're at with Tommy. And then Jim Knowles was asked about the corner rotation, and he discussed Davis Nigbinosin, Jordan Hancock, and Denzel Burke. He said those guys will be rotating, and also mentioned Jordan Hancock in the nickel position, which that's super exciting. If you remember last year, Jim Knowles has always talked about like having three safeties. Listen, man, if you're going against a team that has a really good uh, slot receiver, you need to have a corner in that nickel position. Asking Tanner McAllister last year to guard some of those slot receivers was a bad idea. It simply was just a bad idea, and it costed Ohio State's defense in a lot of situations. So I really look forward to seeing Jordan Hancock there. He was, a highly rated recruit out of high school, like a top 50 guy. He had a pretty bad injury last year. He didn't really get to go through fall camp, I think. So, he wasn't terrible last year, but again, just having a corner in that position, I think, is going to be beneficial when you have a team that has a really good slot receiver. You can't get killed by one position, which that happened a lot last year. So transferring into the next thing here, Jim Knowles was asked about the defensive tackles. The one that he seemed the most excited about was Mike Hall. He basically kind of said he's dominant, which we expected that. If he can stay healthy, Mike Hall is going to be a force. Knowles mentioned Ty Hamilton. Ty Hamilton is that guy, his brother Devon Hamilton came from Ohio State, wasn't expected to be great. Now he's in the NFL and just got paid a big contract. So hopefully the same thing will happen with Ty. If you see pictures of Ty, he's a big, wide, strong dude. I mean, his arms are huge, chest is huge. So he can be that guy that can be your run stuffer, that can stuff up two holes, occupy two blockers. You need that on a team. Not every single defensive tackle is going to be someone who just gets after the passer. So Ty Hamilton's going to play a huge role in this team this year. And then he also was asked about Tyleik Williams. There was some injury issues with him. Tyleik is, as we always talk about, he's a freak, man. I want to see him out there. I think he can beat a defender in a quick second and cause a tackle for loss or a sack. But Jim Knowles said that he's healthy. So, he had some injury issues. Now he's healthy. So we'll see if Tyleik can be in for a big year. When asked about the linebackers altogether, Knowles did mention Tommy and Steele taking the majority of the reps at linebacker. Now, I'm worried about that because I want to see CJ Hicks play, but Tommy Eichenberg took a huge step from his first season with Jim Knowles. If Steele Chambers can take a step similar to Tommy Eichenberg, he's going to be a really good player. Steele is one of those guys who doesn't really do anything terrible except maybe getting off blocks. Sometimes you'll see him get blocked and he doesn't have a chance. I mean, if he can improve on things like that and know where the ball's going, Steele Chambers can be a good linebacker. We want to see CJ Hicks play. I know that Jim Knowles in the past has mentioned him playing the jack position. If that's the case, get him out there. I want to see him on the field. The kid is a freak athlete. He was the number one linebacker in his class. He's already been at Ohio State for an entire year. He needs to get on the field. Otherwise, we're looking at probably seeing a 5-star number one player at his position play 1 year and then head off to the NFL. And that's not a good look for Ohio State. That's going to end up causing recruiting issues in the future. No one wants to come and sit for 2 years. But we'll see how it plays out. I think CJ Hicks is going to get plenty of playing time this year. So I'll put myself in wait and see mode on that. And we'll go from there. All right, so that's it for Jim Knowles' press conference. I know, they both of them brought up a lot of things and were asked about a lot of things. overall, I like the feel and the vibe from what I got from them. I don't think that either one of them said anything too terrible. Um, I wish that someone would have asked about CJ Hicks playing, and we could have got more information there. But overall, it was a good press conference, depending on how you feel about the quarterback battle. But we'll see how that plays out during the season. And then the last thing I wanted to get in here too, or excuse me, last thing I wanted to get into was the secondary. Kind of my takes on who we're going to see at each position and how those guys are going to look, and if the secondary is going to be good or better than last year or not. So starting off, we kind of discussed earlier the free safety position, Jahad Carter, Josh Proctor, and Malik Hartford. Personally, I want to see Malik Hartford get some actual game time reps because having a guy out there that is kind of like a ball hawk and also a hitter. Um, I mean, I saw a post on Twitter yesterday. Someone said the last time we had a Malik H, and it was Malik Hooker. Malik Hooker had a wild, crazy season. I think I don't even remember his stats, but he had a crazy season for the 1 year that he played a lot, and then he headed off to the NFL. I want to see Malik Hartford get some time though, and also, I mean, I'm okay with Jahad Carter. I don't really know where I stand with Josh Proctor. When someone's a guy who's been in the program that long, I don't necessarily feel confident in that person taking the leap or the step that they need to get on the field and be a productive player at Ohio State. I know it can happen, but it's one of those ones where we've been saying that every year. So until we see it, I'm just going to write it off as it's not going to happen. All right, so moving on to the next position, which it would be like your strong safety, your safety that's going to be able to play more in the box. That's going to be Lathan Ransom. I think he's got that position pretty much locked down. Lathan was a really good player last year. A lot of people like to judge him based on like a couple plays in the Michigan game and the Georgia game. I'm not going to do that. He was a good player. I don't know everything that was going on in those two games. I know the one he fell down, but I think he was beat anyway for the big touchdown against Georgia. But again, I'm not going to do that. Lathan was another guy who didn't have a fall, I believe, like a summer fall last year because he had got injured the year before. It was a really bad injury. I think he broke his leg or something like that. But and I could be wrong about his injury. Don't whatever. He hurt his leg. It was an ACL break, something like that. But anyway, Lathan had a really good year last year, and I do think that he's going to take an extra step this year with having a full offseason to prepare. So that's a guy that I'm really excited about. He could be a star on this defense. The next position is going to be like the nickel position. Now, Jim Knowles mentioned Jordan Hancock being in that position. Now, I know that Jim Knowles does a lot of different things where he switches out his guys, but I think that when an actual corner is in the game to play that position, it's going to be Jordan Hancock. There may be some Cam Martinez, something like that, or even Jair Brown mixed in there. But on most of the time, Sonny Styles is going to be on the field, and that's going to be his position. I don't really know how they're going to rotate it, but I expect Sonny Styles to be on the field at all times. Everything we've heard about him is that he's a unicorn. He's a freak. The kid can cover. He can hit. He's big. He's, I think, like 6'4", 230 pounds, something like that. And he's athletic, fast, can flip his hips. I mean, we've heard everything good about him. Not one single bad thing about him. I want him to be on the field at all times. And if a team has a really good slot receiver, maybe Sonny Styles will slide to the strong safety, Lathan to the free safety, or Sonny back to the free safety. You put a corner in at the nickel. I don't know how they're going to do it, but I know that Sonny Styles can do everything, and I know that he's a playmaker, and I don't want him off the field. So Jim Knowles, work that out, make it happen. And then we'll move on to the actual corner positions. Again, the three guys that we mentioned above, Denzel Burke, Davis Nigmanosin, and Jordan Hancock. So Jim Knowles, the way he puts it, these guys are going to be rotating. They're all going to be playing, and I mean that's worked in the past. If they're all really good, then that's not a problem. If one of them is not as good as the other, you could run into an issue. But I really think that these guys are all going to be really good. So Denzel Burke, this is his money year, and he had a really solid true freshman year. And the big thing for me, Denzel Burke played really well in all of Ohio State's big games last year. I mean, he had a couple where people caught balls that they shouldn't have, and the Notre Dame game. Um, Overall, in looking at like the Notre Dame game, the Michigan game, Penn State game, the Georgia game, I thought Denzel Burke was the best corner on the team, and not just the best corner out of a group of bad corners. I think he was really good. So I think that Denzel Burke's going to have a huge year this year. You already see him making plays in like the spring game, things like that against a wide receiver like Marvin Harrison Jr. So if you've been going against Marvin Harrison Jr., every other receiver should be easier, just because he's the best. So and then moving on to the next guy, Davis Nigbenogson. He's a guy who we don't really know much about. He came in from an SEC team, so I expect him to have a big year. I hope he's really good. He's super athletic, and he's one of those tall, long corners, and he seems fast. He hits hard, so I want to see Davis Nigbenogson out there. I want to see him if he can be a true lockdown corner, and what he does for the overall team. I'm hoping to see these guys make some plays and celebrate this year. I want some hype. I want to see our team getting hype and um, jumping up and down. Whatever. Come up with a celebration. I know they do like the seatbelt thing, but whatever. Just get hype when you make a play. That's what I want to see. And then Jordan Hancock, I already mentioned him before. He's like a top 50 player coming out of high school. I think Tim Walton's got these guys now where he's had enough time with them where I think that hopefully they'll start looking like NFL corners. They'll start being able to press man. They'll start, all the stuff that you want to see out of your corner. Toughness when the ball comes their way, as far as like fighting through the hands, tackling. I want to see all of that, and I think that we will. I really think that the secondary is going to be much improved, and I think that that's going to help the overall defense. The D line is going to be way better because the secondary is better, and the D line should be better anyway. So that should help the secondary anyway. So that's kind of it for today. Again, I just wanted to go over the press conferences and then go over the secondary and kind of what my thoughts were on that. If you like the video, leave a like, leave a comment, let me know what you think, any suggestions or anything like that. Subscribe if you want to come back for more videos. And then other than that, I'm all set. You have a good day.